In a special news report brought to you by Real Auto BV, the official Toyota distributor for St. Martin. Real Auto St. Martin has issued an urgent safety recall for Toyota vehicles due to the Takata airbag defect. This recall affects popular models like the RAV4, Yaris, Corolla, and Hilux, manufactured between 2004 and 2013. These defective airbags pose serious risk, including severe injury or death. Toyota owners are urged to visit realautosxm.com or contact Real Auto SXM immediately to schedule a free airbag replacement. Stay safe, act now. Remember, new episodes premiere every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. on TV 15 and across other social media platforms.
I'm Jasenia Lassiter, wishing you a wonderful week.
Stay friendly, St. Martin.
Welcome to the Late Night Show. Hope everything is okay. Hope everything is all right.
No?
No, I'm actually here now.
But
okay. We get it.
Come back too soon?
Thank you. 1 week passed.
People love me!
Yes, all right.
People love me!
See you later.
Security!
Security! Security!
Security.
I love you so much.
I thought you could do something real good in security.
Security!
For yourself. Welcome to the Late Night Show. Hope everything is okay. Hope everything is all right. I'm your host, Andrew Dick. And like Austin would say, louder, louder. I had a blast. All right. Special thanks to Austin Lawrence for hosting the week. I did get some reviews, and are you too damn ungrateful? If you did great, or you want to get rid of me. If you did bad, or you still don't appreciate me because are you like, yeah, but he looks better. It's like, what do you want? Nothing. Nothing at all. St. Martin for the win. All right. What's happening on the lovely island of St. Martin? We begin with the news of the formation process. The 21st of September is the day you have to mark on the calendar. Why? Because that's the day the new parliament members are swearing in. As of now, we still have the old parliament. And that, of course, consists of those lovely members of parliament that met over the weekend. I think on Friday they had a meeting in parliament where they discussed GEBE and the troubles of GEBE. We'll give you those highlights. But just to give you some of the bacchanal that is happening with the formation process. As far as the portfolios is concerned, the USM is the winner. The USM is the winner for now. Why? Because they maintain this stuff. Prime Minister, Minister of Plenipotentiary, they got their VSR. They're chilling. They relax. The Democratic Party, normal. They're okay. Krisha already there for Tiat. They already have Marinka for finance. No problem. Dima Labiga going parliament. We moving on up to the east side. You couldn't do that with National Alliance. Oh, Dimar. That's a good move. Gone back to the founders, gone back to the family founding party and look, you're in. If you had stayed in DP, Dimar, you would have ended up being an MP. But no, you had to go and weaken the National Alliance. That was the plan! That was the plan in the first place! Claude, you done it again! Clem, you done it! Let's weaken them from within. Dimar, you go to the National Alliance. We are not going to get in, but you're going to be in. And look, he's there. All right, let's move on. Then we have, of course, the PFP. Who would have thought that a bunch of know-it-alls would have problems with coming to a conclusion? Oh, you didn't get it. Okay, let me say it again. Maybe if I say it slower, you won't get it. I said, who would have thought that a bunch of know-it-alls would have problems? Get it? Because they know it all. The decision of who's going to be a minister of TIAT, who's going to be the minister, no, who's going to be the minister of Romy, and who's going to be the minister of education is on. You have on one side Melissa Gomes that wants Ludi the Weaver to be the minister of education, while Ludi is saying, no, I don't want to be no damn minister of education. How about your ass go and be education and I do Vromi because the country needs cleaning up. While Leroy in the back going like, yes, yes. At the end of the day, the PFP is run by Melissa Gomes. So, at the end of the day, Melissa has to decide, and Mike Ferrier, what is going to happen with the party and what direction the party is going to go. And PFP, if you're having any problems, do like the Sam party, who was invited late to the party and decided to go completely left and ask a sitting member of parliament from the USM to be a minister of justice. What? Is Alston still hosting? That script makes no sense. What? What are you talking about? So, the SAM asked a USM sitting member of parliament to become a minister to represent the SAM. Frankie, have you lost your goddamn mind?
You done lost your damn mind. When you get your damn mind, you call me.
Frankie, I hope it's not true. These are one of the times I wish it is not true. I wish I am completely wrong, and I hope that I'm just shooting blanks. like she said. At the end of the day, let's not forget that you have a whole list, Frankie, that you sold to us that the SAM is the change. We are the people that are bringing the orange back in things like the PPA back in the day. And we in things now, therefore, we have capable people like, I don't know, to God be the glory. And don't forget Nzinga. That's my Nzinga thing because, you know, she's short, so you have to do so. Nzinga. Nzinga, you there? I'm here. My sunshine. And then, of course, you have Nicholas. Cecile. He could pass screening now because, you know, time passed. We forget about the first failing. And not forgetting Chacho. You know why? Because when he went to Aruba, he used to always say that when he is in, running for parliament, he believed that he could be the next minister of justice. And that's why justice is the best thing ever, because back in Aruba, I used to read justice books.
Yeah, man, I think Rachel's beautiful because she's got good brains.
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get.
And I used to watch Mother She Wrote and Perry Mason. With Angela Goldberry. That's what you used to watch. Right, Jacho? With Judge Judy. My biggest accomplishment is watching a whole marathon of Judge Judy. I ready for St. Martin and its justice system. Chacho for minister.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Okay, I'm done. Whew. All right. Your highlights of the GEBE meeting. As soon as we come back, no, we ain't going nowhere. Stop it, man. Just have to sit through it, and then when we come back, we're coming back with the highlights of the GEBE meeting, okay? Late Night Show with Andrew Day.
Great job, Carl. Thank you. Jeremy, come on up. For the final word in the Spelling Bee Championship, please spell insurance.
Insurance. N-A-G-I-C-O. Insurance.
That's correct. I hope your father can spell Nagico too.
Nagico is insurance. Insurance is Nagico.
At GEBE, we take the safety and quality of your water seriously. Every day, our dedicated sample collectors venture into the field, visiting the places that matter to you: water tanks, school, supermarkets, home, and high-risk areas. Once these samples return to our water quality lab at GEBE, they embark on a journey that safeguards your well-being. Our dedicated analysts take over, sending these samples to the microbiology and chemistry department, respectively. This is where the magic happens. We test for a range of parameters, and we do this every single day, no matter what, including holidays and weekends. In our microbiology department, we focus on 2 major tests targeting various bacteria. Confirmation tests are conducted, and we have plans in place in case the results are confirmed. And then we do it all over again, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Rain or shine, your water safety never takes a day off. So when you turn on the tap and enjoy a glass of GEBE's water, you can do so with confidence. GEBE, the power to serve.
Concerning complaints, the NVGB is streamlining its complaint process to facilitate customers who wish to make claims related to the power generating issues in the past. With this, I want to thank you for the latest updates that I have about our national utility company, GEBE. President of Parliament, thank you very much.
I take this moment now to thank the Honorable Prime Minister. I now look to the floor, to the members of Parliament, to ask if there's any questions that any member of Parliament would like to ask through the Honorable Prime Minister. Melissa Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to my colleagues, to yourself, the Griffier, to the Prime Minister and his support staff, to Mr. Washington, and to everyone listening and tuned in. For now, I really just have one question, because this is the second or third time NVGEB has said that they'll absorb the costs associated with the immediate and short-term containerized units until the main power plant's capacity is restored, and that it will not be passed on to the consumer. The first time this was said, I said publicly that I find that very highly unlikely, because there is a cost associated with these solutions, though they are necessary. And if you kind of gauge where the public sentiment is going, persons' fuel clause charges and their overall GB bills have become even more, exorbitantly high, especially taking into consideration all the load shedding that we have had. So if it could be explained again how exactly costs are not being passed on to the consumer. That would be much appreciated for the public's edification as well as our own here in Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Jacobs, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, the Griffier, my colleagues here in Parliament. Good morning to the Honorable Prime Minister and his support staff, as well as Mr. Washington of NVGB, those in the Tribune, and of course to the people of St. Martin. Mr. Chairman, I also would like thanking NVGB via the Prime Minister for and through you, for the presentation made and for receiving it also to be able to follow while the presentation was being made. I do believe that the fuel clause calculation is, well, it's good that it's presented, but something that was mentioned in previous meetings did not come up in it. There was talks about what percentage of the throughput fee that is paid by NVGEB for the transport of fuel. I do not see it reflected. Is it just absorbed in the total cost of fuel, as was mentioned, the total fuel purchases? In the explanation, it mentions total cost, HFO, LFO, and lube oil, HFO, LFO, to generate electricity. But I think we need to be a little bit clearer, because many statements have been made in the past that government could have eliminated such a fee to be able to bring down the fuel clause. And it's also not clearly defining how market prices impact the fuel clause. So I would like a deeper explanation for the edification of the public, but also for the members of Parliament who are here to represent the public in terms of all of the components within the fuel purchases. And then, of course, that will further clarify how the question my previous colleague asked about the not passing on the extra costs. So an overview of what the real current costs are or how they fluctuate. I mean, I think I do have a little more information in terms of when the market price changes. Sometimes GEBE doesn't adjust right away, and they can explain why that is the case as well, so as not to hurt the population. But the complaints I heard over the last few weeks, I also checked into my bill to see what was being experienced. And I saw that even in the time when we had heavy load shedding, that my fuel consumption seems to be higher. So that needs to be explained in terms of the brackets. I saw there was a nice graph there showing when the load shedding was at its highest. Compare that to what was the cost of fuel on the market. How long does it impact the production of fuel, energy at GEBE? And what other factors impact the fuel clause calculation? Another statement, Mr. Chairman, that has been made in the past and heavily on the campaign trail was that government can further impact the price that is paid by the consumer. If I look at the example given with the 1 million kilowatt as the total kilowatts produced, and I think we need to be very careful when we present these numbers. Yes, it's mentioned there, but reiterate that this is a fictitious example as much as possible, because these numbers will be used as its reality. The point C, the fuel clause portion. So for instance, B, own consumption of the power plant. How is that price fluctuating based on, for instance, the engines being down and deciding to use light fuel instead of heavy fuel? Is that cost being applied as well over time? For point C, the fuel clause portion that is for the water production of 7 Seas. 7 Seas generates, or government who owns the water production, how is there any way that we can adjust that agreement so that the water company is paying for its own fuel instead of the people of St. Martin? And then how is the fixed rate net loss calculated? Is that something from the regulator, from the Ministry of TIAT, or how is that regulated? So for me, even though I'm now seeing an explanation here publicly, I don't think it clarifies the whys as to why the fuel clause is so much higher, and it does not give an indication as to what is government currently doing to try to alleviate this fuel clause being passed on to the consumer. I think that is something that the people of St. Martin would like to know, and as a representative, that's it for my questions at this time.
MP Katai, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Washington for being with us here today. Good afternoon to all tuning in as well.
Still morning.
Sorry, good morning to all tuning in as well. I'll echo the same sentiments as my colleagues about the cost absorption. As from many individuals within our community, when there was a heavy period of load shedding, there was no power for at least half or maybe third of the month for them, but bills were doubled. So I also would like the clarity on the cost absorption. Furthermore, for another question, what is the remaining lifespan of our current operational generators at the GEBE plant? And I see in the presentation that moving further, there will be integration of clean energy and renewables. But I circle back to grid market because I've asked questions a few months ago and have received no answers as of yet. It is to my knowledge that moving this country forward in regards to an energy transition will see major roadblocks if this grid market deal is still on the table.
I have to commend the Prime Minister for this presentation because it looks like he actually worked at GEBE. So I was just smiling throughout because it was a very well-prepared presentation, especially the fact that you were doing it. I know that you haven't been there long, Prime Minister, but it is commendable to see the knowledge that you're presenting in this data. And throughout the presentation, actually when we got towards the end, I leaned over to MP Gums and I was smiling because the formula is mine that I made when I was at GEBE so that we could explain the fuel clause and break it down so that if anyone had to start plugging in numbers, they could. And then MP Roseberg I'm in math class and I'm just smiling because I'm like, this is my cup of tea. So there's a couple things from the formula because, you know, it's not really easy to present numbers to people, especially numbers that they're so interested in when it comes to the fuel clause. And what I will say is MP Jacobs asked about throughput fees. So what I wanna explain the net loss, the net sales, and the throughput fees so that it's a little bit more digestible for public consumption. And the way that the fuel clause is built up is based on commodity pricing of fuels, plus the cost it takes for GEBE to produce electricity in order to sell it back to the public. So every cost included in that would be the cost to obtain it. So if that means getting the fuel from Seoul, which has a built-in price of throughput fees that is paid to government, whether it means that let's say a portion of the chemicals and whatever other materials are made in order for them to produce electricity, that's what goes into it. When it comes to the net loss, every single electricity or water company has net losses. If anyone remembers back in the day with the water company, it was over 30% net losses. So part of the cost of GEBE producing electricity also comes with a net loss for producing it. So for instance, when we had a lot of overhead lines, you would lose electricity that is going to be delivered to people. So what they do is, the way that they measure that is they look at the total amount that they're producing in the plant, and the total amount that is actually charged to people. If there is a difference in the production and what is delivered, that is when you have the net losses. And it's applicable for electricity, it's applicable for water if you have leaks in the lines, in your water lines. So this is all standard practice for utility companies. Let me be very, very clear about that. Now, when it comes to throughput fees, what I want to also say about the throughput fees is perhaps this is a place that government can actually negotiate with our fuel suppliers, because a throughput fee is charged to Seoul, for instance, by the harbor, and it's delivered directly to Seoul in GEBE, but the harbor is getting that cash, if I understand and remember it all correctly. So usually it's somewhere between $5 to $6 million, not guilders, and that is where you can negotiate and say, hey, is this an area that we can tap into to give relief to the public, but also relief to Seoul, who was there for us when we had a financial crisis with the energy crisis. So please consider two components where you can actually negotiate better. The other one is, as MP Jacobs beforehand alluded to, was the airfin contract, because part of the overall buildup of the utility company is water and electricity. So in your calculation that you have presented here today, what is in there is the cost of producing water and electricity, also related to the work that has to be done by our water company, the electricity related to that. Perhaps there, just as indicated, we can go and negotiate our contract with Airfin, who reaps the benefits of producing water for our country while not taking on a lot of the losses that GEBE has. So I specifically put that down, and when I heard my colleague MP talking, I said, she gets it, actually, she really does. MP Jacobs, not saying she. But and this is what I want to say. So there is relief out there, but we also have to be fair with the contracts that people have had before. We have to negotiate it, be tough, and put our foot down and say, are we all in it for our community? Are we in it to just allow another entity who has been a great partner and stakeholder the entire time, but right now, try not to, take advantage right now when we need everyone on board, all hands on deck, so that we could actually see how we can pass on the relief. So the last part I want to say about a fuel clause, and I mentioned it earlier on, do not forget that fuel is a commodity. It's a globally traded price that is influenced by the international price of oil. So sometimes it looks like, oh, but Seoul has a monopoly and they can set whatever prices they want. Technically, there's a limit and a ceiling to it, and if they are going to be a fair stakeholder and a fair partner in St. Martin, I know that they have been there for us in the past, and we have been there back for them. And anyone else who wants to come in to the market, by all means, have fun. That's a dialogue to have with the Council of Ministers, and then here eventually. But just be very fair when reviewing the awesome formula that I created as the former business analysis advisor. And again, thank you very much for this thorough presentation. I was coming in here today with doubts that, the monies that went to the short term wasn't available. And I have to say, honestly, that I feel a little bit more secure. I'll feel better when I see it's delivered, but thank you very much.
Honorable Omar Utley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as I sit here, opposition member, I must say that when I hear my colleague MP De Wever speaks, it gives me hope. It gives me hope as we don't go on here, say or she say, whatever say, that if indeed it is true, we have a minister, potential minister of Rummy that knows what she is doing. When I hear MP De Wever speaks, I felt like she took my notes, because I understand fuel clause. While I do not agree, I understand the formula, and to see that the formula was actually written by the MP, while I do not agree with the way that GEBE is carrying out this mechanism. GEBE is the monopoly. GEBE makes money off of the people of St. Martin. But when I see here, the people of St. Martin is basically being used to pay every bill from GEBE. We speak of Seoul. Seoul had a 30-year exclusivity contract, which eventually is coming to an end. I would like to hear, Honorable Prime Minister, through you, Mr. Chair, what is the plan when it pertains to Seoul? Are we now looking for different options, viable options? Are we going to just renew due to the fact that we owe so? And if it's not coming to an end this year, next year, eventually it'll come to an end. And if I'm wrong, correct me if they do not have exclusivity through you, Mr. Chair. Also, echo the sentiments of my colleague MP Gums. There is said that the cost will not be passed on to the public. Find it very strange as budgets are usually neutral. So what goes out needs to come in. What is the plan then? Are we going to crack down on collections through you, Mr. Chair, to ensure that money is coming in? I also see that we have generators that we're going to fix. So we hear more containerized generators and we hear fixing of generators, but a lot of these generators that we want to fix has reached their maximum time. So it goes back to the question of my honorable colleague, Mr. Katai. What is the lifespan of those generators, specifically the ones that we are fixing? What is the plan for GEBE pertaining to the main generators indeed? Does GEBE has money to purchase new generators besides the containerized generators? Because for us to purchase these containerized generators and then still go through the problems a year or two from now with the main generators leaves us back in a quagmire. I would like to hear more specifically through you, Mr. Chair, through the Honorable Prime Minister. You gave us a sneak peek of your vision. If it's not now, but before the end of this meeting, I would like a more elaborate plan, a 4-year plan for GEBE, a 4-year plan and real vision for GEBE, a realistic one considering the financial constraints. I also would like to know, I know when we were in the Council of Ministers, GEBE had some, and maybe this can be answered off or privately, I'll take this in writing to you, Mr. Chair, had some financial constraints and definitely not where they needed to be. But seeing that we can purchase these containerized generators without passing the cost to the public, I would like to know from an analysis over the past year to see if GEBE's financials has increased. Also, with all of the additional expense, I would like to know GEBE's ability to pay workers, pay bonuses that are customary. Christmas is, believe it or not, right around the corner, and also the COLAs for the workers. How is this being worked out with GEBE? Do they foresee any issues with bonuses, COLAs, and payment of management and workers?
MP Arian, you now have the floor.
Ludi, it says Ludi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the Honorable Prime Minister, his support staff, Mr. Washington, my members of Parliament, to the viewing public. Thank you for the presentation, Prime Minister. I have a couple of questions. I think that MP Jacobs touched on the throughput fees, and this has been a discussion for a while now, but what I would like from the government side is to really explain why the throughput fees exist, how they came into play, and really break it down for the general public. Because we have to understand sometimes we look at investments and items that we see in the public and don't understand that everything that we do has a cost. There's nothing in this world that's free. And I think this is also important for future investments that we might be looking at. Second to that, we just came out of an election, and there was a lot of discussions on GEBE in particular, and I believe that now it's also time to hold the parties and even individuals accountable for their expectations that were created during this time. One faction is the DP faction, who mentioned, for example, about removing the concession fee from GEBE to bring relief. What I would like to know from the government, is this an option? Is this an option that the government is looking into? Removing the concession fee, so the amount that GEBE pays the government every year, removing that in any way that would then allow Mr. Washington and his team to bring some sort of relief for the people. If that's the case, would that also be reflected in the Budget Amendment 2024 or the Budget 2025? and going forward. Because I think, yes, we have all these discussions, but the general population right now just want to hear about some type of relief, and not just, let's say, in the price of the cost of their bills, but the fact that they had to go through this load shedding period.
The question is whether or not the containers that we have already that went into effect and already installed, if they were indeed new, why are we not purchasing them instead of renting them? But if I remember the explanation, I thought that this solution, this immediate solution we have now with the generators, the container generators that the Prime Minister showed us on the screen, these were leased because it was the quickest option for us to get this extra production to alleviate the load shedding. And then the second option was to order brand new containers, which are supposed to be which was what the Prime Minister said was shipped out today. And those are the ones that we are owning, we are purchasing to own. So if the Prime Minister, please, through you, Mr. Chairman, can confirm that the current containers on land and in use were rented, used generators, do we have the option of purchasing those? And clarifying that the new ones that were shipped out today are new, brand new, and it's the ownership option. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Duran, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the Honorable Prime Minister, representatives of GEBE, supporters of the Secretariat, and the people of St. Martin that are tuned in. Mr. Chairman, most of my points were brought forward by my colleagues, but I have a few more questions that I would like to put on the table for clarification purposes. I know that during the campaign, a lot was said. My slogan is, during the campaign, we highlight our differences, and after that, we highlight our similarities. This GEBE crisis has plagued our country, especially over the last couple of months, and I believe that it's time now for all hands on deck. During the campaign, I also highlight that there could be a need for establishing of a sort of a national supervisory committee for NVGEBE. I gave an elucidation of having one representative from each elected political party, so one representative, whether in opposition and or coalition, to just have that sort of oversight. Also, we would have somebody from the SER, the Social Economic Council, and also somebody from the General Audit Chamber, and GEBE, of course. I would like to let the Prime Minister know that a letter is on its way through you, Mr. Chairman, with the suggestions, of course, with more intricate details, and I hope that this can be taken into consideration as we go through the solution phase, as my colleague MP Jacobs mentioned. Second to that, I know that there was a lot of discussions about a blockage of generators being purchased from 2020 and 2021. Now that the whole fanfare of the election is over, I would really like to know through you, Mr. Chairman, why weren't these generators purchased? What was the real holdup? And if there's still planned on the table to purchase these, because I'm hearing a lot about the leased containerized generators. I'm hearing about the ones that we're purchasing now, but the ultimate solution, which will be the more permanent solution, it's still a little vague for me. Are they on their way? Are they in production at this point? I would like that clarification on those 2 points for now, Mr. Chairman. And for now, I will await the responses before I further delve into the other points. Thank you for the opportunity. And thanks again to the Prime Minister for the presentation.
MP Aaron, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to follow up in regards to solar, and of course, the request has been for policy going forward from GEBE and also government. But in the meantime, consumers are already in the field. Consumers are already buying, and so we are a bit behind the wheel. And when I look at, for example, doing some research in some other islands, but one that's close to us, that's Aruba, in their version of RUMI, they have a department that focuses on solar policy. So an individual cannot just implement solar on their homes. You have to follow the policy of the government. And I've heard GEBE mention this before also because of the risk on the GEBE side. You put up a solar panel with the wrong inverter. GP goes to do some work on the road or a unit or house or whatever, and they assume that the grid is off, and all of a sudden now they are electrocuted, for example, which would be at an extreme case. So it's a thing probably for government to even generate revenue, to look at its potential policy, have a couple individuals trained, and that now consumers now could potentially give back, because now we have the policy, we have the systems, and now GEBE could now start to lessen the load shedding because of a certain amount of individuals or companies putting back solar into the grid. And seemingly a lot more persons are also going with the battery option. So I would like to know if that's something between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Rummy, have they looked into that already?
I'll now give the floor over to the Honourable Member of Parliament, La Cruz. You now have the floor.
A blessed afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. A blessed afternoon to my fellow colleagues here in Parliament, Honourable Prime Minister and your support staff, members of the Secretariat, and Mr. Washington from GEBE. Prime Minister, thank you for the presentation. But while I'm sitting here, for some reason, I'm getting very worried because knowing business, I don't understand how, according to my calculations, what something that would cost about 18 million in fuel clause will not be charged. So that is extremely important for me to understand, where that, how is that going to be covered? I would have rather hear, that the cost exists and GEBE will bring it in some sort of relief for the people instead of saying that it's not going to be charged at all. I want to make sure and thank the employees of GEBE, because I know it can't be easy on them right now, everyone cursing and upset at GEBE while they are doing their utmost best to take us out of these dark ages. So thank you to all the employees of GEBE and Mr. Washington, yourself also. Prime Minister, on Tuesday, the 17th of June, in the Daily Herald, and I quote page 10, there were 3 options. And I want to go back a little because there were a couple questions that, and like my colleague mentioned, because we were not able to speak in the first meeting, that is the reason we requested this meeting again. Okay, so I saw that you gave 3 options. One was a 20 megawatt electricity for 3.9 million. The second was a 32 megawatt for 5.4 per month, and the largest at 8.2 million per month, which was a 50 megawatt generator. These all would have been functional in 6 weeks, and all including fuel. The quickest solution was renting a power badge. That's my opinion. So the question is, why was the more expensive short-term solution sought while there was a quicker solution for less money? Then when I look at the comparison of the 20 megawatt electricity usage, the badge versus the containerized generators, a 20 megawatt badge would have cost us 3.9 million per month, including fuel versus containerized generators, with a megawatt costing of 300,000 per month. Multiply that by 20, and we still have a 6 million, which would take 3 months. So looking at a comparison, this would have eventually cost us in total 2.1 million more monthly. And that's still excluding diesel, which would be additional costs. Now I'm hearing different. So I'd really like to know where that is going. The other 2 questions were somewhat answered. And like my fellow colleague, MP Otley mentioned, concerning Sol, and the ending of a contract that I heard was mentioned before, other places with the exclusivity. And if you remember my statement, it is clear everything that is exclusive has a recipe for two things. One is high prices and bad service. So that I would really like to know what the stance of the government current and maybe also the future government on that option for opening it up that other companies could also bid on being providers here in our country. And I would really like to know if GEBE has any plans of finding a way of eradicating the fuel cost in its totality. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Honourable Member Rusberg, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Blessed day to my colleagues. Blessed afternoon to the Prime Minister and the support staff. Thank you for the presentation. Seeing all that was brought, and also a blessed day to St. Martin, of course. Seeing all that was brought forward by my colleagues, and also in regards to the compensation, I also would like to know through you, Mr. Chair. I know the Prime Minister and the GEBE are very busy, but there was a proposal submitted in regards to compensation and relief to the public of St. Martin, seeing the electricity loss. So to see if that was a chance to look at that already and also maybe take the pointers which were brought forward by my colleagues into consideration so that that can be clarified for the public of St. Martin. That was my only question for now.
Omar E.C. Utley, you now have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a few more questions. It was mentioned in a press briefing to you, through you, Mr. Chair, of the management board and directors being instated. I would like to know what is the timeline for this, who was selected, if that is possible to share, and then what will be the case with the special representative that we have? Because are we planning to pay both persons, or once the management board is installed, what is the case? Also, I would like to, I asked through you again, Mr. Chair, I asked the plans of the government. I would also like to know GEBE's plans within the next coming years, what they have planned for their company to better the, gain the trust of the people. That's number one and foremost. Put themselves in a better financial situation. Is renewable energy on their radar, and how long will it take to be a reality? And also, my last question through you, Mr. Chair, to the Honorable Prime Minister. What are basically the pros and cons of, one, this is just a question, privatizing GEBE, or allowing competition on St. Martin? I just would like to know some of the pros and cons. We have to look at every aspect, I think, as leaders of a country. We need to look at every aspect. Thank you.
Mr. Brug, you now have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Blessed afternoon to one and all tuning in. Blessed afternoon to the Prime Minister, Mr. Stuart Johnson and Mr. Washington from GEBE. Basically, I only have one question. Since the hack, a lot of the consumers have been complaining that the bills that they have been receiving is still an issue. I would like to know through you, Mr. Chairman, if the Prime Minister can find out from GEBE what is being done about it. When are the bills going to be finally regulated so that individuals can receive their rightful bills, because that's still a complaint. And I know that one of the reasons that a lot of persons in the community is not paying their bills is because they can't afford it, and they also don't believe that the amount that they are being charged is the fair or the correct amount. So a decision has to be made as, well, I know they're busy working on it, but the public would like to know exactly when is it regulated, or is it regulated already?
I actually skipped two questions that I had. One question and one MP is nervous.
It's okay. You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
So I understood that it is not possible for an individual to, for example, go totally off of the grid of GEBE by placing his home totally on solar. I'd like to know if that is true or not, and why is that the case if it is so. And I'd like to make a statement, Mr. Chairman. I think we have not, GEBE has not been financially audited in a couple years. So definitely I will be putting that motion together in the near future to audit GEBE or request a financial audit from GEBE from 2016 till this year 2024. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It seemed as if we'll be having a long day because the members of parliament now is excited in their questions to ask. And I was just reminded a while ago by my honorable colleague that I'm still a member of parliament until the 19th of September.
No.
I thank you for the reminder.
21st.
I thank you for the reminder, MP La Cruz. I will now give the floor to the honorable member of parliament, MP Clyde Marlin. You now have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to the Honorable Prime Minister, support staff, and Mr. Washington, and to the viewing and listening audience. I'll keep it short. I have one question, basically. It is, when did the fuel clause started? Why did it started, and how long do we intend to continue with the fuel clause?
In my notes, I forget to ask one question, so I will definitely do so because there was a lot of talk about it, especially over the last couple of weeks. So through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Honorable Prime Minister and GEBE, I know that everyone talks about relief. I would like to know, because even during the campaign trail, it was said that we're going to erase all bills and start from zero, which I know is not realistic financially for the institution. I would like to know if there are any thought right now to alleviate the burden from the general population, and how does the government, in collaboration with GEBE, of course, and their supervisory board of directors and management, plan to do so? So what are some real viable options in terms of relief?
And in that discussion, it was brought to my attention that given the technical nature of the questions that was asked and posed, the Honorable Prime Minister is saying to get back to the honorable members of parliament within 2 weeks so he can make sure that all the answers are given. And on behalf of GEBE, it was also noted that in preparations for all that is happening right now, their technicians are very, very busy in consulting and consultation with the preparation work for all the containers and everything that is happening, and they themselves need some time to put answers to the questions that was asked from the honorable members of parliament. And seeing that that is the case, 2 weeks still falls within myself being here. So, so I see it okay to grant the honorable Prime Minister the 2 weeks. I see that I have a request from the honorable member of parliament, Omar E.C. Otley, which I have no problem giving him the floor at this moment, but I would also like him, and as much as I know it's a CC, to please make it short. Thank you very much.
No.
MP, you have the floor.
I'll be short, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, I have no problems with the 2 weeks requested. However, I have one request. Throughout this whole saga, we have yet to hear from or see the plant manager, the head of the plant. I would like to request his presence. I think it's very important. I don't know if that's possible, but I would like. Why isn't it possible? Well, we'll leave it in the air, but it'll be good to have the plant manager here.
I thank you very much, Honorable Member Otley. Given your request, I would have to deny that request for the simple fact that the shareholder representative in the person of the Honorable Prime Minister and his support staff are the ones that is here to carry out the answers, and that was requested. So not that to say it can't happen, but no, given the nature of the meeting that we are having now, the person is represented in the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Luke Marcelino. So as I made mention earlier, I will now give the floor to the Honorable Prime Minister. I don't know if you have any closing remarks, but I will also give you the floor at this present moment before we close this meeting. Prime Minister, you now have the floor.
Thank you, President of Parliament. In the first place, thank you for the opportunity to be here to explain the whole development of the national crisis that concerns all of us. I would like really to thank the members of Parliament for their constructive approach for us to get together to a great solution to bring prosperity and increase the livelihood of our people. And especially thank you very much for granting me the 2 weeks for me to give good answers, well thought of, that is going to be very informative for a constructive solution, contribution of all of us for the future of the people of St. Martin.
Hello, my people. Make sure you tune in to Sit, Sip, and Chat every Monday at 5 p.m. on TV 15 and every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m.
And make sure tune in to the Late Night Show with Andrew Dick from Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. with a repeat in the afternoon for no reason. In the afternoon, the Late Night Show at 3 p.m. Thank you, TV 15.
Thank you, TV 15. Make sure to tune in.
Make sure to tune in to the Late Night.
And Sit, Sip, and Chat.
Late Night.
Oh, hey, did you know I just signed up for Flex by Telem?
Do you mean flex like this?
Definitely not that.
Do you mean flex like this?
No, definitely not that.
Do you mean flex like this?
No, definitely not Flex like that. Telem's Flex is a mobile plan that adapts to your needs. Each month, I get a preset monthly fee that has a set amount of data, SMS, and minutes. So I know what I'm getting. But say goodbye to overages and bill shock, because when I go over my postpaid plan, it switches to prepaid. So I have the flexibility to top up what I need when I need it. I'm in complete control. My budget, my rules.
That is it for the Late Night Show. Thank you so much for watching. Until tomorrow, do have a safe and pleasant one.